this crazy twirl, you know. And what has even been added to now is that teachers in South Africa have been told that they're going back to school on Monday, which is the 25th, and that grade 7s. Please, can you mute your microphone? Grade 7s and grade 12s have been told that they will start school on the 1st of June in South Africa. So that has come up with even more crazy rides for people, in that parents are now being faced with, oh, do I send my child back to school? Don't I send my child back to school? And we've also got to take into account that teachers, many teachers are also parents. So that is also adding to the craziness of everything. Okay, when we look at emotional health, we know other frontline workers like doctors that before lockdown, they were in 60 to 90% of them were already stressed. So you can imagine now that we've adding to it, in that we've got so many decisions. And what we've seen as well is that from a emotional wounding, that a lot of people have been emotionally wounded from this. Yes, you can strengthen, you can grow from it, but it's also recognizing that lockdown has not been easy. What we've also got to see from teachers is that we are trying to teach children in a world that is different, a world that's changed. So job titles have gone away, okay? Job titles in a career world aren't as important. The whole career ladder that we've known has totally changed. It's morphed into something else. And when you think of it, it's actually more a jungle gym, in that it's not just about going under and the normal linear way, in that you can change departments. You can, you know, just because you're an accountant now doesn't mean you've got to be an accountant forever. And what we're really looking at is skill sets for the future. It always amazes me from a skill set point of view that we keep on talking about it being for the future. When does the future arrive? Or is it next week? Is it next month? Is it in 5 years' time? And what I think lockdown and COVID has done is that future has actually really just been brought so much closer to us. And we need to look at skill sets for now. So when I was looking at what we could do and which skill you absolutely need in order to survive, in order to move forward, in order to go into that future that we're talking about, is emotional intelligence. So some people call it emotional intelligence, other people call it emotional quotient. They abbreviate it to EQ or EI. Strangely, I call it emotional intelligence and abbreviate it to EQ. So what EQ is, obviously EQ is a very, very vast topic, and we're not going to be able to cover all of it in an hour. But what I was wanting to do is to give you a take-home message, take-home things that you could absolutely use for yourself and in your classroom. So when you look here, EQ is made up of 5 pillars. The first one is self-awareness, self-regulation, internal motivation, empathy, and social skills. So those are the 5 pillars. They almost become like a foundation for anything that you need to build on. And this is not only in a workspace, this is at home, this is in a corporate space, wherever you, in your place of worship, wherever it is, we need to have EQ. So when you look at the EQ, you'll see that 3 of these pillars are about I. Okay? One of these pillars is about you. And the last pillar is about we. So just look at that for a moment and see 3 of emotional intelligence pillars are about I. A lot of us talk about the fact that there's no I in teams. And we keep on saying that I is about ego. But ultimately, if we don't have the I in emotional intelligence, if we don't start with the self-awareness, the self-regulation, and the internal motivation, I cannot care about you. And if I don't care about you, we can't have a we. So what I like to say is, yes, there are no I's in team, but there are many I's in we. Especially with younger people that you're obviously teaching millennials and Gen Zs. It is, and also alphas that are around the corner. It is really about understanding that, yes, we can be part of a team. We can work towards something. But people, especially now, want to know what are they working for and what is their role in it. Do you recognize do we recognize this person's role in what it is that we're doing? And so it's very important that as we work as teachers, as we work as leaders, that we recognize individuals in the picture. So let's look at self-awareness, that first pillar. Self-awareness starts with this. What do you think this baby is feeling? Think about it. What do you think this baby's feeling? Can you see boredom? Can you see disappointment maybe? Do we think this baby's hungry? Okay, we might all be sitting here and we may see different things in this baby. For me, I see this baby as being bored and, oh, still in lockdown. Okay, can't see my friends. Then we look at 2 and 3. Do you think 2 and 3 is the same kind of emotion? Do we see 2 and 3 as maybe being anger? Do we see frustration in here? I often ask my clients, okay, in number 2, and if we see 2 and 3 as both angry, who is angrier? And this is sometimes people reply different things. Sometimes people say 2 is angrier. Sometimes people say 3 is angrier. My advertising client said, 2 is definitely angrier because 2 is red and 3 is pink. And red is angrier than pink. Okay? When we say to people, all right, who is more dangerous? Then often people say 2 is more dangerous because we don't know what 2 is going to do. Whereas we know that 3's already exploded and maybe in 5 minutes time, 3 will be fine. Because we have different cultures and different ways of seeing emotion and different feelings, that often you go, oh, you may see different things depending on where you live, whether you're male or female, but they know that there are micro expressions in people that you can see, and no matter which culture you come from, no matter which language you speak, and no matter which language the person is speaking, that often you can tell the emotion based on micro expressions. So this one over here, number 4, is something that I've seen a lot in my clients since we've gone into lockdown. That whole puzzled look and not knowing, confusion, questioning, what do we do now? And that expression has been very much coupled with this one here, number 5, of fear, of not knowing, of what do I need to do? I'm very concerned. And in my managers that I work with, in the leaders that I work with as clients, they have been that because they have not known, they've gone away from, because it's made them scared. And that has caused issues at work, in a workplace, in a home place, if homes are places. Yes, it's a new word, home place. And so what they have done is that they have stopped communicating because they don't know, as opposed to going into the situation and saying, we don't know how we're going to do lockdown. We don't know what we're going to do with the sales team, for instance. Okay, so here we have 1 and 2. 1, you imagine, we all know, well, that's happy, isn't that? And 2 is, that's sad. And we imagine that because the person is happy, they're not sad. But what we know often is that people can be happy on the outside, but on the inside, they have different emotions that they may not show us, or often that they are showing us and we're not able to see. So also during lockdown, we've got used to the idea that you could be happy 1 second and anything but a few hours later. And that whole roller coaster of where we've been is quite normal. Here as well in 3 and 4, 2, 3 and 4, you can see some version of sadness, but we don't, different people will see different things. So for instance, for me in number 3, I see depression. Okay, I see heaviness in 3. Other people wouldn't see it like that. They may see gloominess. In 4, for instance, I see somebody who may have lost their best friend, or their best friend's fighting with me. And it's almost like an overwhelm in that the emotion has zoomed up and gone out through their eyes. So the whole thing with this is to make it a regular habit for you to ask yourself, stop like 4 times a day, 10 times a day. How do you feel? Hello, how am I feeling? Colleen, how am I feeling now? Okay, can I describe how I'm feeling? Do you have a word for it? And maybe another language has a word for it. So this is very important for you as teachers to do, to become self-aware of your own emotions, of your own feelings, not just everybody else you're working with, your friends. Sometimes we're so busy looking after other people that we forget about ourselves. So make it a habit. How do you feel? Can you describe it? Do you have a word for it? And maybe another language has a word for it. In South Africa, certainly we have got lots of languages, and we muddle up our languages very confusingly for people, but often another language has got the word for describe how you are feeling. And this is what we call emotional literacy. As teachers, we're very used to literacy, and that literacy is all about being literate in languages or being literate in maths, but it's important that you are literate in your emotions. And from a self-awareness point of view, it's about being literate in your own emotions. This teacher, Caitlin Robbs, she managed to put together this amazing wheel, which is a vocab wheel. In order to get this wheel, if you look up Caitlin Robbs on the internet and use a vocabulary wheel, you'll be able to get it. I've tried to enlarge it so that we can see it. These 6 emotions here, surprise, fear, anger, disgust, sadness, and happiness. These are the ones that we tend to think are what are the only emotions that there are, okay? But what you find is that often, has anyone ever said to you, oh, I see that you're angry. Why are you angry with me? And you turn around and say, I'm not angry, okay? Because you're feeling hurt, maybe, or threatened. So it's almost like the person didn't recognize that I'm not feeling angry because you're hurt. What you may see in your classrooms, and certainly with yourselves and teachers, is this whole thing of people feeling abandoned or isolated. Maybe children will start to feel isolated from when they go back to school. Will that then look like loneliness? Will it look like sadness? So you might say to a child, oh, you look sad. Inside, they may be feeling abandoned, isolated, apathetic, indifferent. A big thing with all these words, English has got so many words, which it makes it very rich. I've always been very grateful that I learned English as a home language. But it gives you so many more options. Often with children, though, they're not going to know these words. And so it might be an idea to get into your classroom of, how are we feeling today? Okay, what color are you today? Or what animal are you today? Because it allows children to talk. It allows adults to talk too. And it's about saying that there's no bad emotion. There's no good emotions and bad emotions. They're just emotions. So still in self-awareness, do you know that you are a miracle? It's quite amazing. You are a miracle. And the reason why I say that is that the chances of you being born absolutely as you is 1 in 10 to the power of 2.685 million. Now, to give you an idea of what that number means is, you know, when you meet someone, you say, oh, 1 in a million. I met my husband and he's 1 in a million. That 1 in a million has only got 6 zeros. This is 2.685 million zeros. So the chances of you being born is absolutely so rare as to almost have been impossible. And what you'll see here is that here you are. You are so rare, amazing, stand out, phenomenal, have got so many strengths. But what we tend to do is we see that only one person can stand out, and these people must all just be in a sea of nothingness, a sea of sameness. But we are all unique. We are equally unique in that every single flower in our picture is unique, not just the one who's red and not yellow like the others. And this is where we get confused, in that we're so often talking about equality, in that we're all equal. And we get muddled up with the idea that equal is the same as same. But we are absolutely unique. There's no other person like Colleen. Absolutely, correctly, there's only me can be Colleen, all right? And so we mustn't get confused in that there's only one unique person. Every single one of you is unique, and every single one of you are a miracle. Something else that I've seen people get confused with is that humble doesn't mean hidden. Often we're going away from that whole arrogant point of view. So standing up and being that flower does not make this flower arrogant. It does not mean that these flowers are being humble and this one is being arrogant. It means that this flower is saying, you know what, I've got talents and strengths and I'm going to use them in this world. So please know that being humble does not mean that you have to hide, that you've got to shrink in order to fit yourself into small little spaces to make other people feel better. That is not being humble. That is also not using the amazing talents that we've been given. Okay, so that was just a little touch in self-awareness of making sure that you are aware, that you're emotionally literate, that you're aware of your emotions, and also that you're not hiding, that you're not hidden away, that you're not claiming every day that you're a miracle and you're here on earth to go and do some amazing, fantastic things. And we can't do amazing and fantastic things if we hide, or we're waiting for everybody else to stand up. So when we move into self-regulation, you'll see that this pillar is all about how do we regulate those emotions. So it's not about squashing the emotions, it's not about pretending that they're not there. So look here you are in the days when we were still allowed in shopping centers. Okay, here you are going up this escalator or moving stairs or whatever it is that you call it. And when you look across, you see that there's somebody you went to school with. And you're going, wow, hello. And you're leaning over the side and you're trying to get this person's attention. And they are just looking straight in front of them and they're going down to the bottom of the stairs. And by the time you get to the top of this escalator, you're feeling like, good grief, what's going on here? And so you have written on Facebook about how disgusted you are that people you went to school with are now too important to greet you in the shopping center. Sound familiar? Okay, so what we're seeing here is things happen to you, things happen to us, and we act on them. Simple. Hello, things happened, and we acted on them. We wrote on Facebook about how disappointed we were with people who we went to school with. But what is actually happening is something happens. Yes, we said hello to the person across the way, all right? And we then tell ourselves a story about it. The person did not reply to us because they didn't want to speak to us, or they didn't reply to us because, oh, I'm not going to speak to that person. Oh, please, not good enough. Here, you're feeling that this whole story that you're telling yourself is in your own head as to why the person didn't reply. So what you're saying to yourself is the person ignored you. They saw you speaking to them and they ignored you on purpose. And so you start to feel feelings here. You feel rejection. You may feel embarrassment. You may feel like not good enough. Okay, for whatever reason, you'd be amazed at how many people have, oh, just because that person went to university and I didn't, they now not greeting me. Or just because that person got married to so-and-so and I'm still single. So you'd be surprised at what things this brain tells us as a story. But what that does is uncover an emotional need, in that we have a need to feel loved. We have a need to feel like we belong. We have a need to feel respected, that we are good enough. Okay? And that emotional need that we've now unpacked in our heads, that's what we act on. So here, where we got to the top of the escalator, and we wrote on Facebook, these people, okay? We told ourselves stories and we unpacked emotional needs. And so what is important is that before we act on something, we are aware of this emotional need. We become aware of the emotion that we're feeling. Remember in our first pillar, self-awareness, emotional literacy. How am I feeling? Gee whiz, I'm not feeling very nice. Hey, I feel rejected. I feel like, oh, I feel stupid because I nearly fell off the escalator, okay? Trying to say hello to this person. What story are we telling ourselves about what happened? And that's where you start to say, okay, can we change the story? Maybe the person didn't see me. Maybe the person isn't the person I saw. Maybe the person couldn't hear me. Maybe the person didn't recognize me because maybe I don't look like the same as I was at school. Okay? When you tell yourself a different story, you get a different feeling. So if we said, oh, that silly person, oh, must be blind. I mean, hello, we're only 30 and now they already can't see me, okay? So yes, you may still write on Facebook, but you might write on this person's wall to say, hey, Shanta, I think you need glasses, okay? Do you see how it totally changes what you've done? And so this is why Norman Vincent Peale said, when you change your thoughts, you change your world. Let that thing sink in. And what we keep on saying to is, that person made me so angry. It wasn't the person who made you angry. It was the story you told yourself, okay? And sometimes, yes, the person is telling you, the story's right. What you're telling yourself is correct. But there, we need to either then change the situation, accept the situation, or move. And so we don't do the action here. We wait till the end to do it. So this is important. Self-awareness from our first pillar goes into the self-regulation in that seeing, why am I feeling like this? What story am I telling myself? So here's another example for you to practice, because it's pointless only hearing something. When you go to a lecture and someone says, oh, you need to do this, this, and this, and you go, yeah, okay. When you go out the door, if you don't practice it, it doesn't become a habit. And it is not something that goes into your life. So here, this person has popped out during lunchtime and he's looking for a parking and it's hot and he's cross. And finally, he sees his parking and he's about to pull into it. Guess what? This little car comes zoom around the corner and takes the parking. Okay. So what does he do? He opens his window, he leans out the door, and he is screaming and shouting at this person who took his parking, all right? He, depending on how mad he is, he can get out, he could even scratch the car, confront the person, do all sorts of things. When we go back to our picture, we see something happened. He lost his parking. What did he do? He screamed and shouted and used language that can't be repeated on our webinar. But what story was he telling himself? Okay, before we can get to a story, he has to work out, how did he feel? He may feel taken for granted. He may feel disrespected. He could feel that, oh, of all the things that are going wrong in my life, it's just one more thing, all right? What story is he telling himself? He's telling himself that that person stole his parking on purpose. Depending on what stage he is, he could even say, that person stole his parking on purpose because he is a man, okay? Or because he's an old man, or because he's a white man, or because all sorts of things. That person has got no respect for him. But how's he feeling? This guy's aware of his feelings, so he changes the story. The person didn't see that he was waiting for the parking. Maybe the person actually got there before. Okay, Moses, you've raised your hand. Did you want to speak to me or admin? Okay, so what's then happening here is that be aware of the emotion so that you can change your story. Okay, change your thoughts, you change your world. All right, when we move on to the third pillar of internal motivation, here we're making sure that, okay, I can't see the chat room at the same time, but I will go into it just now. All right, so what we have here is internal motivation, okay? This is our third pillar. Internal motivation is being aware of that little voice in your head. We all have little voices. Sometimes we have more than one little voice. And the little voice is telling us things. And in our fast life, in our rushing around kind of thing, we sometimes don't even notice that little voice. We're not aware of it. And do you see that's where your pillar 1 comes in? with self-awareness, okay? The self-awareness is then going into the situation of saying, okay, be aware. What is this voice telling me? But it's not about judging yourself because what the voice is saying. It's just an awareness. Because here, this is where we're telling ourselves stories. And the importance of this is here we've got a voice of judgment, we've got a voice of cynicism, and we've got a voice of fear. Of, oh, I can't send my children back to school. Or what happens, how do I go back to school, but I don't want to send my children back to school if you are a parent and a teacher. This little voice also says things like, oh, they won't like the talk. Oh, I can't do that. They don't like me. My in-laws think I was a bad choice. All sorts of things that this voice says. And often this voice is not a friend, but we allow it to camp in our heads. Okay, so here, it's about being careful about how you're talking to yourself because you're listening. 24/7, you listen to that voice in your head. And you see that's where the stories come about. That's where the self-awareness of what it is that you're saying, the self-regulation of making sure that what comes into your life is positive and good, and also the internal motivation that if you are sitting in your own head with front row seats going, nah, you're not that great, eh? I don't think they're going to like you. No, they won't like you. Why are we allowing that kind of voice to have front row seats in our own heads? Be aware also that how you've been raised, when you've been raised with a voice that becomes your own head of, you can't do that, you're not good enough, girls can't do this, boys can't do that. It becomes your own narrative of what it is, that record in your head. Okay, maybe we don't have records anymore. Maybe they're DVDs. Okay, that loop in your head of playing it over and over again. All right. So it's important that you think highly of yourself because the world takes you at your own estimate. And this is where people battle because they're saying, as soon as you think highly of yourself, it means that you're being that little red flower that I spoke about. It means that you're not being humble. And that's where we go wrong. Because when you think highly of yourself, it's actually gratitude. It's an awareness of, you know what? I am pretty amazing. I have been designed so well. And look what the strengths and gifts that I've been given to be able to go out into the world to make a difference. So how can we hide or saying that think highly of ourselves as being arrogant? When actually thinking highly of ourselves and setting our own estimate and then what difference we're going to make in the world is really just being grateful for what we've been given. It's being grateful for how we've been designed. So when we look at these three pillars and what happens when we don't regulate and we aren't aware and we're not self-aware, we start to have these common negative feelings where you start to feel unappreciated, unsupported, judged, overworked. Okay, I'm sure a lot of teachers have felt overworked where they're trying to work things out and they've had to transition from a classroom to copy paste, which we all know doesn't work, into an online situation. Unappreciated because all those teachers did, all those parents did maybe was complain. Okay, unchallenged. That is something as well that once we feel comfortable, we then got to feel challenged. So all these feelings that start to happen when we're telling ourselves stories and those unmet emotional needs pop up, it's because we have a need to feel supported. We have a need to feel trusted. We have a need to feel like we're important and we've got this, okay? We have a need to feel challenged and motivated and fulfilled. This is always a test for me because, yes, the opposite of unappreciated is appreciated. We have a need to feel respected, okay? We have a need to feel recognized in that the work we're doing is making a difference and wow, look how well you're doing it. But because these negative feelings carry on in people and they're not addressed and people do not have emotional intelligence to go and recognize the emotion, to go and change the feeling, we end up having the most problems in a workspace are caused by unmet emotional needs. And as much as it's funny, over all these years, we were always told, leave emotion at home. Work is not the place for emotion. And we're realizing that people who left emotion at home didn't leave it at home. They've just squashed it. They've taken it inside them as opposed to thinking, oh, how am I feeling today? Remember that awareness? How am I feeling today? Can I describe it? Do I have a word for it? Does another language have a word for it? And so when you have these unmet emotional needs in a workspace or at home or with your friends, we end up disengaging. Yes, we're at work. We're there, but we're not really. And unfortunately, we aren't normally dressed this well either, okay? It's about being there, but you're not really there. So think about your relationship with your partner. Are you really there? Do you pitch every day? Or are you just not really there? Okay. In a workspace, do you pitch every day? Are you really there? Are you engaging? Or are you standing at the water cooler and in the kitchen over coffee complaining? Because you become disengaged and then you work into becoming actively disengaged. When you're actively disengaged, you become the force that undoes everything or tries to undo everything that engaged people are trying to achieve. Okay, so these negative feelings and this disengagement means that in a workspace we have high turnover where people don't stay. They, oh, off we go and off we go, okay? We have that whole idea of absenteeism where come Monday, oh, can't go to work, hey? And they people phone, well, actually they WhatsApp now. They WhatsApp and say, I'm too sick to come to work. There's also inefficient communication. I see it all day long in my job where you have different silos in companies. People don't speak to each other. There's a loss of creativity in different way of doing things. And there's inefficient problem solving. So all day long, people take the molehill and they turn it into the mountain because of unmet emotional needs that are not being addressed through emotional intelligence. And we become those people that are horrible. The critical ones, the aggressive ones, judgmental, closed-minded, impatient, the people we actually don't want to hang out with, we end up becoming because of a lack of emotional intelligence where we're not going into what we need to do from our unmet emotional needs. Okay, so in summary, what I've spoken about before I read the chat is here we have the 3 pillars of self or I in emotional intelligence. Remember the 5 pillars? 3 of them are about I, and that's what we've looked at today. So that whole self-awareness, okay, with emotional literacy. Remember our little faces that we looked at? Are you asking yourself, how am I feeling today? Do you have an awareness of your feelings? Do you know, oh dear, is there an up and down? There's nothing wrong with ups and downs. Remember, we cannot have rain if we don't have clouds, okay? And remember the wheel, where you're going to go look at the wheel, you're going to go look at the different things where we actually only see 6 emotions, but there's so many different thoughts and feelings that are going into those emotions. Also in self-awareness, we have who are you? That you're a miracle. To understand that being unique is not the same as being the same or equal. Yes, we absolutely are unique, okay? We are totally amazing, but we may be equal, but we're not the same, okay? And then we have the little kitten hiding. Remember, humble doesn't mean hidden. Please don't deflate yourself in order to fit into small spaces to make other people feel better. All right, then we have self-regulation, which is the pillar 2. This is about an awareness of the emotion. How am I feeling? But what story am I telling myself to get that emotion? Okay, how can I change the story to get a different emotion so that I can then act differently? Do you see, this doesn't take 12 days to do. This is fast. And so the faster you are at being able to think, gee, this situation is not making me feel very good. All right. What story am I telling myself? Can I change the story? So the whole point is an awareness of the emotion and changing the story before you act, because then you're going to have to go and undo everything. And then that whole internal motivation, that voice that's camped in your head with front row seats, awareness, okay, of what is this voice saying? It's also where self-regulation comes in. Am I allowing that voice to say things that are judgment, cynicism, and fear. Okay? Oh, why has this polling thing come up yet? Admin, are you doing the polling now? Or at the end?
No, I'm sorry. It's my, I just somehow mistyped. Sorry.
Okay, not a problem. This is all part of it. You see, self-regulation. Now, the story I could be telling myself is all sorts of funny things, as opposed to the story I'm going to tell myself is, this is all part of speaking online. It's the fun and the different way of doing things, okay? Things go wrong, things don't work, but you know what? We can still do this. All right, so what is that voice in your head? Are you allowing it to stay camped there? Are you going to allow it to pop in? And, well, it doesn't just pop in, it lives there permanently. Are you going to allow it to not serve you? Okay, so when we now go into our next slide, we then have what happens when we don't have those three pillars. We start having those non-supportive emotions. They cause problems in our entire life, not only at work, in your relationships with your children, with your parents, with your partner, with your friends, with your neighbors. We end up disengaging, and we're not as dressed as well as my picture. And we affect work and anywhere in your life with absenteeism. You go away from your relationships. You go away from your friends, from your children, from your parents. And that whole turnover, yes, we change friends, we change partners, we change things, and we end up not solving problems. We take little things that could have been gone away in seconds and turn them into lifelong problems. And we become those not nice people that I was speaking about. Okay. Colleen still says okay when she talks. So the big thing here is that awareness, okay? And in our awareness, we're saying, geez, I used to be very, very good at telling myself stories. I could actually be in 14 PhDs of stories I've told myself about situations, okay? Once I became aware of them, I then realized I had a choice. I had a choice to change it. And only when you realize that you have a choice can you then change. So a big thing is we cannot change anything that we don't know about. You have to be aware of what it is, of what you're doing, in order to choose to change. Just to go in briefly into the fourth pillar. It's all very well that we are sitting here. So here you are with your self-awareness, your self-regulation, and your internal motivation. And you are seeing from your side what it is that is happening in your life, how you've dealt with lockdown, how you've had to go back to school, how you have managed parents who are painful, how you have done all the things that you are doing in your life, okay? Empathy is about going to stand on this side with this person to see what they're doing. Empathy is not the same as sympathy. It's not feeling sorry for this person. It's about caring enough to go stand on this side. You don't have to have gone through the same things as this person. You don't, often what happens is like you go like, okay, the person's got divorced. Must you have been divorced to understand? No, absolutely not, okay? So empathy is about the willingness to go stand with this person on this side. But it's not sympathy. You don't have to be in the same situation. You don't have to say, oh, shame, hey? Empathy empowers and sympathy disempowers. And so this coming up in your next few weeks when you go back to the classroom, it's about understanding, okay, where's the empathy? But you cannot care about the other person. You cannot have that you pillar if there's no I pillar. And there's, remember, not only one I pillar, there's 3 I pillars. So make sure that you are looking after your 3 I pillars, because without 3 I pillars, there's going to be no you pillar for your children, for your headmaster, for your colleagues, for anybody else. And if there's no I and there's no you, we're never going to get the we. We're not going to see your school work together. We're not going to see a team of motivated teachers who are coping. And so that's me. So I'm going to read the chat room now, because for some unknown reason, I can't see the chat while I am talking. So now I can see the chat. Okay. Okay, a whole lot of people said hello. They're from all different places. Botswana, South Africa, more Botswanas, Indonesias. We really are a whole different group of people today. So that's awesome. Okay. Shanta was saying humility should not be equated to being inadequate. Absolutely. A lot of cultures have taught people that humility is about being less. It's about being good, not good enough. It's about being hidden. And that you need to hide under the table to be humble. Nope, nope, nope. That's not being humble. Okay, it's not humility. All right, you guys are all being very quiet. Let me go down here. I'm glad that you were lucky to join this webinar. Okay, we also need to step back and ask ourselves, what platform are we responding from? Anger, disappointment, insults, etc. What story are you telling yourself? So it's pointless if we are telling ourselves that we feel disrespected or, oh, okay, so a big thing that I often ask is that in a workplace, how do people get on? Do they argue about things? So when you walk in and the receptionist doesn't say hello to you, I'm telling you, that receptionist does not like me. She has not liked me from the moment I started here. There she is, not greeting me every day. Total disrespect. I'm telling you, she's gunning for me. She wants my job. Do you see the story? Okay? As opposed to, oh, the receptionist didn't greet you because she didn't see you. She was on a call. She was busy doing something else. And you went tiptoe past her and she didn't see. Change the story, you get a totally different emotion. Okay, some very good things to consider, especially to see where we are in our own headspace before we go back to school. I cannot emphasize that more. Because what happens is, remember I said to you that the frontline workers, the doctors, were already 60 to 90% of them were stressed before we started lockdown. The same as with teachers. I think parents understood that it's not easy being a teacher. It's not easy looking after their little darlings all day long, okay? And we have had, South Africa, okay, my daughter's old, but many, many parents have had 8 weeks of seeing what teachers go through every single day. And when you are running on empty and you are running on not filled up because you have not looked after your 3 eye pillars, what are you going to be able to give to those children, the you in your classroom? You're going to be running on empty. There's going to be nothing, okay? Taking into account that you come from your own home. You may not have children, for instance, but as a teacher, you're going to go back into a workspace and you're going to have the fear of, what am I taking back? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Should I be doing it? Okay? So please make sure that you ask yourself regularly, that you fill yourself up. You put the oxygen mask on yourself every single day. And while you're putting the oxygen mask on yourself every single day, please teach the children in your class to do the same thing. Make it a habit of, okay, guys, guess what? We're going to check in. How are we feeling today? What colors are we today? What are you, a giraffe? Veronica, you're a giraffe. And what are giraffes? Okay. If you work with big people too, there's no difference between little ones and big ones. Okay. What are you, a giraffe? Now, what is it? Oh, I'm reaching out. I'm seeing. Because then they can maybe explain to you how they're feeling. Okay, I hit nails on heads. Are we able to have this presentation on soft copies? This is very educative. Thanks so much. All right, so what my version is as a coach, it's to do the journey with you, to realize that it is difficult. But if we go to talks and we go to like, oh, I heard all about whatever, okay, it means nothing if you don't go home and put it into practice. Okay. All right, being a teacher is not easy. No, absolutely. Because you deal with your emotions first before you can deal with 100 learners. Thank you very much for this webinar. It's a pleasure. Okay. So that is also why I started off with what I did, in that it's about recognizing that you are frontline workers. Okay. We have spoken about nursing staff. We speak about health staff, doctors, all that kind of thing. But the person who sits in the grocery store and rings up your packet of chips, that surprisingly are an essential item, and also our teachers are essential staff even without COVID. Okay. Yes, categorically, there is a secondary pandemic of mental health in that. That's massive. Okay. All right. Moses has said that, and this is good. This is what it's about. This is what I would like you to encourage in your classroom, especially with older children, of having a discussion, in that I want to disagree on the statement you've made, which states that sympathy disempowers. Okay. And my point is that sympathy disempowers, but empathy empowers. And sympathy is when you feel sorry for a situation and you're almost wanting to go to the situation of going, oh, shame, he's poor, hey? Okay. And it's not doing anything. It's not empowering the person to move from their situation. It's not going into the situation of saying, what can we do about it? How can we move away from it? Where can we do? Often when we sit too much in sympathy, okay, and not in empathy, sympathy is something about that it doesn't help the person, but it also doesn't help you. It erodes you away. And a lot of empaths, people who are empathetic, all right, and they start to feel everybody else's emotion, but they don't disconnect from it because it becomes their story. They are the ones who need to work out how to be empaths and release it, as opposed to being, I don't think sympaths is a word, but sympathetic in keeping it with them. But let's hear from you, Moses. You want to switch on? Your microphone? Where is Moses? We've got two Moses. There's a Moses Sianga and there's a Moses Mpundu. The Moses Sianga is the person who disagrees. Yes. So Shante, who is a counselor and also coach, sympathy drains the counsellor so much that you begin to require counselling yourself. Okay. Because at the end of it, like for instance, I can feel as a coach, even though you're all switched off and I can't hear, I can feel the emotion in this room. I can feel the responsibility, the, oh my hat, we have to go and hold these children. We have to make a difference. We can't fall apart ourselves, okay? Although I have empathy for it, I have to actually disconnect myself from it, because if I go with you into it and I don't empower you how to cope with it, I eventually end up not being able to do my job or my calling. Okay, so let's hear from you. What else? What's the time? Oh, it's 12:58. Colleen talks a lot. Yes, we can feel the tension. So often what happens, oh, the Jack Russell's back. He doesn't like these calls. What actually happens is that often people will say that because we're not sitting next to each other, because you are far away in another country and you're a little square here, that we can't feel it. But we can feel it, because energy works across. It's not only sound, it's not only visual. Energy works across distance. Okay, so the silent concern and the reflection. What do you need in the few minutes that we've got left? You can type. Okay, what advice would I give to the feeling of uncertainty? It's about exploring the uncertainty. What are we being uncertain about? Are you being uncertain? Okay, obviously as a coach, I would wait for you to reply. What are you being uncertain about? Because if I carry on talking, I can make up my version of what it is that you're uncertain about. So let me be a coach and ask you, Stephanie, what are you uncertain about? I can't see Stephanie on my pictures.
Hi, Colleen.
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me?
I
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, that's it.
For me, the uncertainty, because I'm also from South Africa, so going back to school, well, possibly on Monday, but the thing is, for example, we haven't received our protection equipment yet, and the permits hasn't come for the management to go in yet, for example. So, you know, we also only need those things to be in place before we can go back to school. So for me, it's just, you know, having to work out what timetable is going to be, how we're going to fit the children into classes, you know, all those types of plans. And I think for me, the biggest thing, and as much as you can put the structural things in place, I'm most apprehensive and uncertain about how are the girls going, because I teach at a girls' school, how are they going to be when they come back into school? You know, we're obviously going to have to do a lot of emotional checking or you know, psychological evaluation with regard. And then the girls are also shy to open up. You know, sometimes they say they're okay, but we know they're not okay. But for me, it's uncertainty with, you know, we have to carry on with the curriculum, but will we be able to dive into it because of the mental state of the girls? So that's kind of what I'm uncertain about, and also a lot of structures which are simply just not in place at this stage.
Yes.
School-wise, yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. So it is about seeing that there is going to be huge uncertainty. And the lesson that you could teach your girls is that how do we cope with that uncertainty? How do we cope with how this is an adventure? I mean, I've seen in students now where they've got to write online tests and they're going in there, oh, we'll just wait, all right? As opposed to saying, no, we can't wait. There's no, what was has gone. We can never go back. We can only go forward. And so, Stephanie, what your girls could actually remember way long after they've forgotten 1 + 1 or the state of English or anything like that is how to cope with this situation. And a big thing as well is that it's about seeing that often we don't know, but as long as we see it as an adventure, like if I say to you, oh, let's go here or let's do this, when you go in places together and you go, oh, gee, and you laugh and, oh, gee, that didn't work. Okay, how can we make it better? But for me, it's also about seeing that the teacher can't be the expert. The group, the class, the school together has to come up. What do we suggest? How shall we handle this? What shall we do? As opposed to all the expertise resting in the teacher. Because you know what? I hate to tell you, it's not us who know how to handle this. It's the younger people, the digital age people who are able to work out. But it's also about holding the space for people. We can't fix it. I can't make you less sad. I can only hold you, I can only hold the space for you in that where you're in the sadness.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Pleasure, Stephanie.
And I reckon probably I'm at Danville Park Girls High in Durban.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think
so
one of my things
can help you out.
Oh, is she also from Durban?
Shanta's in Maritzburg.
Oh, that's close enough. Yeah, I think, and I always say to the girls, it's one of my little motivational things, and I think it might apply now, is, you know, we're going to have to take it as it comes. It's the only way it's going to come. So,
yeah.
And I think what I'm feeling sad about is that you can't hug them.
Yes.
Give them a little hug to make them feel better, Sean.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure. A big thing also is like a friend of mine said that a colleague of hers had lost a child during this time, and before you would go from a grief point of view and you'd sit with the person and you would hold them and you would cry with them, which you can't really do online, you know. And it's also about saying it's about finding new ways of doing it, of exploring things. Yes. Okay, so Shanta's also and what I've also said to people as well is that when you have a situation, and what they've said is that the companies and the businesses and obviously the schools that come out of this are the ones who are going to know who engage. Okay, so who engage at a deep level, not hi, how are you? Okay, Thokozani, what happened today? Where are you in your emotion? All right, who take the time to go deeper. The next thing is going to be who use empathy, who understand, who go into the other situation. Okay, so maybe it's a time for teachers from an empathetic point of view, not to say, oh, we have to catch up, my hat. And every teacher, remember, all 27 of you, okay, that's what it's going to feel like from a child's point of view, that all 27 of you all rush in and go, oh my hat, we need to make up the curriculum, we need to write these exams, we need to pass, we need to this, and are going to give homework and work as if there was only one of you.
And Colin, I have Mr. Moses Mopundu, who has chatted privately to me, thinking it was you. He had a question as, I have more than 8,000 students and most of them are scared to take e-learning exams for fear of failing. But I have struggled to make them understand that they still attempt and pass. This is because someone has installed fear in them.
Okay, so it's not necessarily that somebody has installed fear. Remember, it's change. So as soon as you go away from something that you've been used to, that you've been comfortable with, into something that you don't know, what happens is that we have the fear. And so we'd rather stay where we were. And it's often where you have students, you say, no, we'll wait till we write our exam. I said, well, how long are you going to wait for? What happens if this is only next year? Are you willing to only finish your degree or finish your qualification next year? And then they go like, oh, okay. So it's almost like they would rather wait and not write the test, not write the exam, or not finish their course because they're waiting for it to stop. But the world we knew is gone. So it's about, and what I said to students this morning, ironically, is I said to them, you know, in that interview where they say, could you please explain to me how you have coped with change? Here is the example for you to be able to give them. Well, you know, I was in lockdown and this is what we did. We were the first group of students that wrote online. You know the question where someone says, where were you in 9/11? Where were you in lockdown? What did you do? What was different? Tell me about it. Yeah. And so often you can't say to a person, you cannot be scared. You can't say to somebody, no, this is just ridiculous. You've got to literally hold their hands and go with them to show, you know what, guys, this is how we're going to do. We're going to learn from it. We're going to be guinea pigs. We're going to say, oh, you know. So I've seen a lot of places where they try to take their online, you know, if I hand you an exam paper, here's your exam paper, okay, and they've just emailed the person the Word document. And now suddenly you're trying to fill in the Word document and it's got a different print and it doesn't, yeah, and it's an absolute mess and it caused lots of stress in people. But it's about, you know what an honor to be a guinea pig. What an honor to lead the way, to go and make things different. So it's mindset.
Colleen, can I make a comment, please?
Yes, Shanta.
Okay, I'm not sure of the age group of the participants, but I find, you know, generally the teachers who are more millennial are able to deal with the digital issues. I'm not talking about COVID-19 now. I'm looking at this whole stress with the move towards becoming digital natives. The millennial generation copes with this far better with our our students of the Z generation that are now students than the older people. You know, like the Generation X finds it very difficult to adapt and to relate to the Generation Z about how to cope with this. So that could be one of the issues. The other thing I wanted to say to the teachers involved is that you can get online coaching and counseling. So don't think that you're alone in this. There are people that are ready to walk this emotional journey with you. And it can be done in your own private time. You know, there's NGOs that do it, etc. So keep your chin up. This too shall pass.
Thank you, Shanta. Shanta is an educator, or should I say teacher, has worked all over the world as a teacher, and is also a coach and a counselor. Okay, so important, absolutely. You're not alone. Invest in yourself. Get a group of people and have group coaching that can be done online.
Okay, so
But the difference you're making is huge, and know that you are respected and loved, and you're not alone.
I believe Colin Moses Sianga is having a question, I believe. Moses,
Yes, Moses.
yeah, could you please speak up?
All right, I can go ahead. Hello?
Hi, Moses. You're very far away, probably because you're in a different country.
Yeah, Moses, please go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Are you able to get me? Yeah, are you able to get me?
Yes.
Hello?
We can hear you, Moses.
Hello?
Yes, yes, Moses, we
Or you
can.
can get me. All right. All right. I just wanted to agree with the sentiment expressed by the previous contributor. Again, there's this aspect that I want to put across, a point that I want to put across, because look, we've been experiencing this situation now, the pandemic situation. And then we have children now coming back. We have children coming back now, resuming schools in most countries, because most are resuming. Now, these people have been away together, and in the homes that they have been experiencing some, socio-economic situations. Now, how do you think these people can be helped socially and just to, get up there together so they can move on as it was? That's my point. Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. Okay, so your question is?
Are you able to get my point?
Yes, I think so. I'm going to repeat your point, which I hope I heard you properly. You're saying that how do we assist people to move forward, given that where they've been has not been easy and they've almost got scars? That it's also been from a social point of view, they haven't connected with people. And so the big thing about moving forward.
Yeah, because they've been away for too long. Let's say 2-3 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, the way to move forward is to not force people to move forward.
How do they acclimatize to the situation and accept that this is the situation they're in now?
Okay. So it's about not forcing people to move forward, because change is the same as grief. And so it's allowing people to grieve through the situation of being able to let it go, of denial, of anger, of sadness. Okay, so think about how you deal with grief in your community. They're letting go of what was. And in order to go into what is and what's forward, they have to let go of what was. They've got to download it and let go. But love can solve anything. So as long as you just hold them figuratively and you listen and you can communicate, and that's obviously a lesson also, the continuation. Okay, we can hear your sound, Moses. All right, as long as you are there for them and you hold the space and you don't demand that they move forward, you can then do anything for them. It'll happen. People will heal. But you can't force healing. Okay, any questions from anyone else? So the time that we are in is not easy. And we have moved from a very, very big comfort zone. And we've literally been ripped out of our comfort zone in order to move forward. And it's important that you don't embrace all of it on your own or try and do everything on your own. Please connect with your colleagues, with your friends, but also with the children in your classroom, because together we can do anything.
That's great. That's really a good speech. So thank you so much for your insightful as well as more informative session, Colin. And we all appreciate all the participants from Botswana, Indonesia, South Africa, Nigeria, Zambia. So we're really thankful for investing your time on this session. Hope it was helpful for you guys. And I do see that some chats came privately through that you wanted to get some more information about these slides. Probably if Colin is okay, then we can share those presentations to you. We shall check and get back to you on that. So thank you so much for your time, guys, and you do have a great day. And I would appreciate if you can take this poll questions, so it'll be helpful for us to know how useful this was. And based on this, we'll be able to do more sessions in the coming months, which should be helpful for all the teachers. Thank you, Ms. Colleen.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Please do reach out to me if you need to talk.
Thanks, Colleen. Thanks, everybody. Stay well.
Thanks, Shanta.
Thank you, Ms. Shanta.
Okay. Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you, Nishan.
Cheers, Ramal. Bye, Colleen. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Thank you so very much. I got value, though I came in late. I'm so interested in the slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph.
Miss Colleen,
Yes.
for you,
I sent you a message, Ripka.
this
But we got
Okay.
Colin. So thank you so much, Colin. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Texila.